What's going on? What's up, everybody? We are live, ready to rock and roll. Got some fun stuff going on. May use the whiteboard today to illustrate some stuff. So hang out if you want to be a part of this and learn some more about your business. As we get people coming in here, getting started, we will do a audio check here in a minute. Make sure that everybody can hear us. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, drop a 1 in the comments if you can hear me. Just want to make sure that we're good before I get going. Drop a 1 in the chat if you can hear me, and then we'll get to rock and roll. And if you're watching on TikTok, drop a 1 in the chat if you are watching, or if you can hear me rather. And then we'll get rocking and rolling here. I want to make sure that the audio is good before I take off on a spiel. Thanks, Jared. Anybody on Facebook watching, you guys can hear me? Drop a 1 in the chat so I know we're good on TikTok. So got a couple things I want to chat about today. Let's rock and roll, John. Thanks, appreciate it. So if you guys didn't listen to the podcast episode of Drop Today, it's episode 144 about creating a GPS for your business. Now, we all know what a GPS is. We use it every day in our phone or, in our cars. It navigates where we go, where we want to go. But for whatever reason, we don't use GPSs in our business. And that's what I want to talk about is creating GPSs in our business so that we know that we're going in the right direction, right? And so the most common things that we should be doing is we should be doing a profit and loss. We should be looking at our profit and loss regularly, like at least once a month. We should be job costing to make sure that our jobs are being estimated correctly. We should be looking at our lead flow to see how many leads are coming in and also know if we're, what our closing percentage is, as well as are these good leads. So if you're running marketing campaigns and you don't know if these leads are good or not, then how do you know if you should keep running the campaign? Like how do you know if you should keep paying for that, right, to turn that on? So these are all things that you should be tracking. And there's lots of other things that you can track depending on what business you're in, what your goals are, where you want to go. We can call GPS our goal positioning system. Let's do that. It's our goal positioning system. It's going to take our goal, which usually for most people is like a revenue goal. I want to make 500,000 a year. I want to do $1 million a year. I want to do 5 million a year. That's our goal. But the GPS, our goal positioning system, is going to tell us if we're on track to actually hit the goal. The problem is that we say, oh, I want to, let's say you did $600,000 this year in revenue and you want to do 800,000 next year or this year, coming up. We put that on paper like goal, $800,000. And then that's the last time we ever look at it. Like we never go back and look and see if we've gotten close to it, if we're on track to do it. It's just that's our goal, and then hopefully we hit it, right? And that's not how you should run any business. I don't care if it's contracting or not. That's not how you should run any business. You should have goals, and then you track on a regular basis where you want to, where you should go. What are your milestones that you should be hitting? So a lot of guys in the Profit Club, I give them a few tools to use to track a lot of these things so that, we can look at them together and say, where are we at? Are we short of our goal? Or we want to hit our goal, whatever. But the thing you do is that, let's say 1 million is your goal. Well, that breaks down into 83,333,000 or whatever, $333 per month that you have to hit, right? Let me check my math here because I suck at math. So if we divide 1 million by 12, yeah, it's $83,333.33. That's our goal, right? And so, yeah, John, your goal should be in front of you every day, 100%. But, having a goal on the wall that says $1 million, that's great. But are we tracking everything on a daily basis to make sure that we're actually on our goal, hitting our goal, right? So if we know that we want to do $1 million in revenue, we got to sell $83,333 every single month. And if we divide that by weeks, then what does that end up being? Divide that by 52 weeks, that breaks down to $19,230, $19,230 per week that we need to sell. And then we can further break that down into per day, which is roughly $3,846, right? So call it $3,850, or round it up to $3,900. That means we got to be selling $3,900 every single day in order to hit $1 million a year in revenue. But we don't track that like hardly ever. What we track is, oh, I sold this $50,000 job, I'm closer to getting $1 million. I sold this $100,000 job, I'm closer to $1 million. But we don't know if we're on track or not. And then you take into consideration, like, there's different seasons of the year. And so, December, January, February may be your slowest months of the year. And so, those months you're only going to hit $50,000 a month in sales. And so if that's the case, then you got to make up $33,000 times 3 in the rest of the year, right? And so that has to be divvied out. And so if you've been in business for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, and you haven't been tracking this data, you are missing so much freaking data. It's not even funny. It's actually really sad, because the data is what's going to allow you to make the right decisions in your business. If you know that August and September, there's a dip in your lead flow and you're not hitting your numbers statistically, then you need to increase your marketing budget, say in July, so that come August, your lead flow is up, right? Like, these are all data points that you should be tracking in your business in order to know where you're gonna be at. Now, some of you watching, the thought of doing $1 million a year is like not even remotely close. Like, you're barely doing $200,000 a year and you're struggling. And I get that, right? It's just less of a goal. The information is the same. It doesn't, if I'm like, oh, I only make 200,000 and I want to make 300,000, I don't say, well, I don't need to do all this goal tracking. No, you still do. And you probably need to do it even more than the guy that wants to get to 1 million. It's still the same amount. It doesn't matter what the goal is. You still need to be tracking all of your numbers in your business on a regular basis. I get it. I don't have time. It's too busy. Whenever I get some time, I'll do it. No, it has to be a priority. There has to be a priority with this stuff. I can't tell you how many contractors I talk to and I ask them, what's your gross profit average? I don't know. What's your net profit? I don't know. How much do you pay yourself? I don't know. That's not a business, guys. That's just, you own a job. That's it. And you're just pissing in the wind and hoping and praying it doesn't come back on you. If that's how you run your business and you have no plans on changing that, you will fail. Like, it's guaranteed you will fail. You should go work for somebody else as an employee. If you're not willing to do the business activities, then you shouldn't own a business. Some of us like to have the benefits of owning a business and only want the responsibility of being an employee. And that's not reality, right? Some of you watching this, or if you're watching the replay, you shouldn't be in business. You really shouldn't. If you're not willing to sit down and look at your numbers on a regular basis, you don't plan to stay in business. You just plan on winging it. You're just going to wing it the whole way and hope that golden bullet, that one job is going to save everything for you. It's not. It's not. And more times than not, that one massive job is what puts you out of business, because there's so much dysfunction on a low job that when you sell a big job that you think is going to save everything, you triple the dysfunction, you triple the losses, you triple the complexity of it, and you end up losing. I like Alex Hormozy's saying, which is business is 100 silver BBs, not one golden bullet. And that's true. It's getting base hits every single day. It's not hitting home runs every single time you step up the bat. You have to understand that it's consistent. It's consistency over a period of time is what allows you to be super successful in business. If you have any questions, by the way, throw them in the chat while I'm talking, and we will answer those. But the GPS, the podcast, if you didn't listen to it, you know, the creating a GPS for your business, it's really like tracking your numbers. You have to track your numbers in your business. It's non-negotiable. You have to know what you're doing. You just have to. If you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail. Period. In a discussion. So that's the GPS. That's creating a GPS for your business, right? This is understanding your numbers. I want to switch here. I want to talk about something else that I just for whatever reason popped in my mind talking to some people, and it's something that I think needs to be addressed because people don't understand this. If you're not making enough money in your business, right? And let's say I got my board here so we can do some drawing, some arts and crafts. If you are getting, let's say you sell jobs at a 30% gross profit. You're selling your jobs and you're only getting a 30% gross profit percentage, which is kind of, I would say, kind of an average for most contractors. And let's say your total overhead takes up 20% of that. Okay. 20% overhead. I know my percentage is to be over there, but whatever. That leaves you with 10% net profit. Okay. Pretty simple math. If I say you need to raise your prices so that you get a 50% gross profit, how much of an increase in your profit is that? Somebody go to the chat, just put a number in there. How much of an increase, how much more profit are you getting? Just put, as a percentage, put it in there. How much more are you getting? If you go from 30, actually, let's make this a little bit simpler. If you go from 30 to 40%, you do a 10% jump. If you go from a 30% gross profit to a 40% gross profit, what's the increase in profit that you're getting? I don't know how much of a delay there is in the chat. How'd you get 5, Wood Warlock? How'd you come up with 5? If we're going from 30% to 10%, how did you get 5? Maybe I misspoke and said something else. Anybody else put in there? What's the percentage increase in profit? Somebody? %. Yeah, Ramert says if it stays the same, if overhead stays the same, you get a 20% net. Well, that's true, right? So if we're at 40% and 20%, you end up with a 20% net. But here's the thing you're not understanding. Yeah, Scooter says you gain 10%. Yes, you gain 10% or a 20% net, but you're getting 100% increase in profit. This is not a 10% increase. This is 100% increase. You're literally making 100% more. You guys understand that? Yes, Justin. If it goes from 10 to 30, Or if it goes from 30, if you go from 30 to 50%, it's a 200% more profit. Yes, that's right. A lot of us think, oh, it's only 10%. I'm only going to make 10% more. No, you're going to make 100% more. If this 10% net is 50K and you do a 20%, that means you're making 100K. Right? You guys see, like this is not what a lot of people think. If I say you need to get a 50% gross and maybe you're at 40% now, you're like, oh, that's only a 10% increase. No, it's not. It's 100% increase in your profit because your overhead doesn't change. Your overhead stays the same. You guys see how impactful this is in your business? Like literally you can, if your company's making a 50K net and you just raise your prices, you're going to make an extra 50K without doing a single another job. You're not doing 1 second more of work. Nothing. How many like just had a realization of like how impactful that is? Put a 2 in the chat if it was like blew your mind or you just realized how impactful just as much as a 10% increase can be in your gross profit. I'm just curious if maybe you guys already know all this. Maybe you're all pretty smart. Yeah, Ramert says 2. Justin's 2. Yeah. So if you're at a 30% GP, right, and you go to 50, you skip ahead to 50, not 40, right? Now you're at a 30%. If your overhead stays the same, now you're at a 30% increase, which is a 200% increase in your net profit. You guys see how much you can go from 50K to way, way, way more overnight in like literally like this without doing any more work, and why I charge $7,500 for the Profit Club, because this number right here is peanuts when you can literally make 5 times that like that. From my perspective, whenever I talk to a contractor, like, I really can't afford $7,500. I'm like, you're not thinking clearly. You're not thinking about the impact to go from 50 to 100 or from 50 to 200 or whatever, depending on what your margins are. It's a ridiculous return on your investment. Ridiculous return. So let's clean this up and do something else. I just wanted to throw that out there because I don't know if you guys, like, I don't think people think about how much you're not getting 10, 20%. You're getting 100, 200% more. So what's the next thing when I tell people? I say, hey, go from 30 to 50. Brad, that all sounds great, man. I'd love to be able to do that. But if I do that, I won't sell any jobs. I'll never sell any jobs, ever. Okay, well, that's a limiting belief. But let me just tell you why you can't sell any jobs. Because most contractors that are in that, 30%, let's call it the 30% gross price range, where you're way underbidding, you're selling to the bottom of the food chain, right? You're selling to like the bottom 30% of the food chain, because people that are wealthy, upper middle class, who want to have a nice work, who are going to pay a lot of money, they're not even considering like the cheaper contractors, because they know through life experiences you get what you pay for. So they're not even looking down here at this, right? If I were to change this to like a pyramid, and I've done another video on this about the level 1, 2, and 3 customers. But if this is a pyramid, you have about 10% at the top, right? 30 here and about 60 here. Okay. This is your middle class, lower class, and upper. Now, these aren't like hard statistics, so don't like go and tell me like, oh, it's actually this is a rough estimate, illustration of what this is. And so what a lot of people that are selling the lower jobs, they're somewhere in between the bottom and like maybe the middle of the middle class, right? But the problem is this is where all of the competition is. So across the board, your competitors are all selling in the same bracket. So you have the most competition in the lower part of the pyramid. If I go up here to the top of the pyramid, right? Let's say in your town, there's 50 contractors in this section. There's 50 contractors that are selling to the middle to low income segment. And so you have to be super competitive. You're competing against 50 other contractors. At the top, there's 5 contractors that are servicing that area. There's 5. You tell me which is easier to compete with, 5 or 50. And somewhere in between here, maybe there's 15 that are kind of capturing that little space in between. The reason why most people say, I can't raise my prices, there's too much competition, is because you're competing in the worst freaking area of business, which is the lower class and low middle class, which has the highest amount of competition, period. Rammer, you know the answer to that question. You know the answer to that question. You want me to tell you? Because you already know the answer to the question. The answer to the question is you get coaching and stop playing small. This is what I mean by playing small. You're playing at the low end. You're playing with the smallest profit margins. You're playing to not fail. People down here in the lowest section play not to fail. That's true. You're playing not to fail. People up here are playing to win. They don't play to fail, not to fail. They're playing to win. You have to be up here. It's easy. What I'm trying to tell you is that 10x is easier than 2x. There's a great book called 10x is easier than 2x because it's true. It's 100% true. 10x is easier than 2x. Think about this for a second. Most companies, if you start out by yourself, a lot of companies can grow from 0 to 2, 3, 4, 500,000, maybe even more. Obviously depends on the industry, the trade, all that stuff. But for like most remodeling companies, they can get from 0 to 500,000 on their own with grind and hustle, right? With grind and hustle, you can get from 0 to $500,000, and then you can like 2x your effort. If you're making 250 and you want to make twice it, you just twice your effort. So through grit, perseverance, hustle, and sheer, grinding it out, you can 2x your income. But to get from 2x to 10x, it's physically impossible to grind that out. You literally have to change how you do everything. You have to change how you do everything. And so, as an example, this is just an example for you guys. If you're sitting currently at, let's say you're at $500,000 a year revenue, and you said, or I told you, you wanted to get to 5 million. You're at 500,000 right now, and you want to get to 5 million. What would you have to do in your business in order for that to be true, in order for that to become a reality? Think about that. And the answer should be, I can't do it the way I'm doing it now. Maybe it's you and 2 helpers, and you're working on the job as the foreman, and you're selling, and you're doing all the marketing and all the business stuff, and you got 2 helpers, and you're grinding it out, and you're getting the 500,000, and I tell you to get to 5 million, you would say, it's not possible, Brad. I can't do it. And that's because you can't do it with your current firmware, with the current way you are currently doing it, the way you're doing it. It's not possible. You literally have to change the entire way that you're doing stuff. That's progress. That's growth in your business. If you're at 500 right now, 500K rev, okay? Where you're at personally, if this is you, let's say this is your line here, and this is where you're currently at, okay? That's you. That line represents you. You're at 500 rev, and now you want to get to, let's say, 1 million. That requires you to do, maybe you only got to do a 20% change or a 30% change. You only got to change the way you do things 20 or 30%, right? You have to change your mindset. You have to hire new people. You got to do training. You got to learn leadership. You got to learn sales and marketing, all these other things. You got to learn that stuff, right? To get to like 5 million, and you're going to come here, this is 100% change. So from here to here is 100% change in you personally, in all aspects of your life. At this level here, you can still watch TV on the evenings. You can still watch your football games. You can still hang out with your friends. You can still, only work 40, 50 hours a week, maybe, depending on where you're at. This is the chill life. You can just do whatever you want. You get to 1 million, you got to change it 20%, or maybe it's 50%. Okay. You got a 50% change. Maybe you quit watching TV. You quit watching TV here, but you still hang out with your friends every once in a while, right? But to get to here, to the 5 million, and by the way, these are just random numbers. Like, this isn't like to do these numbers, it's just an illustration of where you're going to expand your business. If you're wanting to get to here, it's 100% change in you. There's no more TV. There's no more drinking. You're working out every day. You have to exchange all your current friends for new friends and new networks. You literally become a different person. You're reading books every day. You're trying to expand yourself. What most of you are doing is you want to get from 500 to 5 million without changing any of this whatsoever. And that's not possible. I don't care who it is. It's not possible. Change is a requirement. That's just it. You have to change who you are if you want to get there. Jesse says, I'm so glad I quit working for the cheap nickel and dime people. In case nobody has told you lately, we really appreciate your efforts and content trying to help us. You're welcome. I appreciate it. So how do you decide when it's time to hire help? Dean, there's a lot of, that's kind of a loaded question. If you're charging accordingly, if you're charging the right amount, if you're charging, getting a 50% gross profit by yourself, then you're ready to be able to start hiring people. And you have enough work, obviously. So it's kind of a loaded question. But what most people do, let me try this again. What most people do is they do the tried and true method where they work for somebody and they go, I'm going to start my own business, and my boss charges $50 an hour, and I'm going to undercut him so I can get work. So I start out at $45 an hour. That way I can get work, right? And maybe your overhead is $30 an hour. So you're making $15 an hour, profit, if you will. Congratulations, you're making less than a lot of, than you can make at McDonald's. You own a business, but you make less than McDonald's employees. Okay, congratulations. And you're like, that's not enough. That's not enough money. The only way I can make more money is to hire help so that I can make more money. And so you go and you hire help, and you still charge $45 an hour. Now your overhead doesn't increase that much, but it does increase some. So let's say it increases $15. So you're making $30 an hour. Yeah. So you're making $30 an hour off your employees. You're still only making 15 because you're carrying a lot of the overhead, the additional overhead. And again, these are just rough numbers. So you're making $30 an hour off your employees. And so the idea is like, oh, that's the most I can make. So if I want to make more money, I got to hire more employees. So I add a bunch of employees. Actually, let me work on my artistic skills a little bit. So I add a bunch of employees, right? And I'm making anywhere from say 30 to 20 bucks an hour, depending on their skill level and all that stuff and what I'm paying. And so the way I think I need to make money is just by hiring more people. But every time you hire someone else, it's another set of problems you have to deal with, right? You just got just more people to deal with, more moving parts, it's more issues that can go wrong. The problem with this is that you're not really making good money to start with. So as you add on people, you don't really have enough money available to pay top dollar for good work. So you're getting mediocre people at best. And they're always causing problems. And so a lot of this profit gets eat up. Even if you're making those kind of profits, it gets ate up with fixing things, with production issues, with going over on schedule, blah, blah, blah. All of that profit gets ate up because you're not hiring high quality people because you can't afford them. You're like, yeah, Brad, I hear you. You got to pay 30, 40, 50 bucks an hour for someone. There's no way I can pay that much. Yeah, because you started out not charging enough. If you took this same scenario, and instead of charging $45 an hour, you charge $100 an hour, right? Now, instead of making $15 an hour profit, I'm going to make $70 an hour profit because my overhead's not going to change. All I did was raise my prices. My overhead doesn't change. This is what I was talking about, like doing a 100% increase or a 200% increase, right? So instead of making $15 an hour, I'm making $70 an hour. Right off the bat, I'm making plenty of money. Now I have money that I can go spend on marketing to get the lead flow coming in so that I can afford to hire more people. Now I have, let's say $30,000 in the bank that I can use for capital funding. So I can hire this person and I can buy a truck and tools and uniforms and all the other stuff that I need, right? Instead of coming from $15 an hour where I only had maybe $2,000 in the bank because I ain't making jack crap. Now I'm making now I have $30,000 in the bank. I'm making more money. It's a hell of a lot easier to hire people and get your business set up for success when you have profit available to spend. See, a lot of guys at the $15 an hour, like, I got to get a line of credit. I need a line of credit because I want to buy all this equipment and these tools, and I don't have enough money. I don't have $50,000 to go buy vehicles and tools. So I need a line of credit. And so you get a $100,000 line of credit somehow, if you're lucky. And then all of a sudden you're using lines of credit to make all these capital investments, but you really also are using some of that line of credit to make your payroll, to pay some of your expenses. And by the way, guys, your line of credit should never be used to make payroll or expenses. It's okay to cover it. Like if there's a gap, you're waiting on 30,000 to come in, you got 35,000 going out. It's okay to like cover it temporarily. But if you don't have money in the bank to make payroll and then use lines of credit to make that, like you're already in trouble. Like you're in deep dog doo-doo, right? This is why you have to max out your profit before you start hiring a bunch of people. And if you do, it's going to be much, much, much easier. I don't know if Butters, are you still on here watching? He's a good example of what he was able to hire rock star employees because he was making enough money to be able to do this. Like he made enough money so that he could hire rock star employees. And when you hire rock star employees, it is a night and day difference than hiring like a normal person. Right? It's like it's night and day. When you hire a rock star, it's like, hey, John, here's this job. Can you go do it? He's like, say less. And he goes out there and does it, and there's no problems. And he comes back a week later and everything's done. Like some of you never even had that experience. Some of you can't even go freaking 1 hour without your guy calling, boss, I got a problem here. Can you help me? I don't know how to put the screw in the door, right? Because all you could afford was the cheapest freaking dude out there because you weren't charging enough to begin with. Everything, I'll let you in, man. Everything is based on making enough money to start with. That's where it all starts. You have to charge more. All right, you're good.
Dude, I'm so bored, Brad. Like, I'm just sitting here. I'm waiting for Halo to update on my computer so I can play games until I go home.
Don't be telling people that, man. They'll think that's how easy it is.
It took a lot of work to get here. But you get here, and then it gets easy. And then it gets hard, and then it gets easy. And then it gets hard, and then it gets easy. It's cyclical. You want to change something, it gets hard. And then you figure it out, and you get it together, and it gets easy. And you want to do something, you break it and rebuild it over and over and over and over. And you get bored, and then you break it.
Yep. You can't be afraid to fail.
No, absolutely not.
Mike has a good question. He says, how do us rock stars get this pay that I'm talking about, this high pay? How does a rock star get that kind of pay?
I'm in remodeling, and I don't are you the rock star seeking the pay? Then go find rock star companies that give a shit about you. But it's hard to do that because they're always full because they have a stack of applicants a mile long.
Yeah.
If you're looking for rock star people, go poach from companies that are happy, that have happy employees, and offer them more than they're getting now, and be the place that people want to work.
Well, it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to poach them from really good places, because there are some people that are really good, but they're just trapped in a bad environment. I mean, you can find good people that are stuck somewhere.
Yeah.
But here's the question I have for Mike. Like, and I don't know anything about you, Mike. Like I know zero about you. A lot of people think they're worth more than what they're actually worth. Right? The thing is that from an employee standpoint, if you're an employee and you want to get paid more, you have to provide more value. It's just that simple. It's no different than the contractor. If I own a construction business and I want to get paid more, I got to provide more value to my clients. And it doesn't matter if you agree with this. It doesn't matter if you hate capitalism. It doesn't matter about any of that stuff. If this is you, you have a dollar sign over your head. And that dollar sign is equal to the value that you produce. It's that simple. If you're a lead guy and you're only making, like, let's say you're getting paid $20 an hour. You've been in the trade for 10 years and the guy's only paying you $20 an hour. And you're like, damn it, I'm worth more than this. I should get paid more. And you're like, I'm not going to do anything else until I get paid more. Well, then you're never going to get paid more, because you're expecting more than you're actually giving, right? And so what you have to do is step up. So if you're the $20 an hour employee and you go to the boss and say, hey, boss, look, I really want to grow in this business. I want to be able to make more money and go up through the ranks. I want to do more work. I want to do more. I want more responsibility. I want to do this and this and this, right? And he's like, cool, do that. And then you go out there and now you go from foreman to project manager. and let's say he gives you a $2 an hour raise, which is not enough. It's piss money. After about 6 months or 3 months of doing that, and now you've taken over everything for this owner. He's like Butters. He's playing video games all day because you're doing all this value. And then you go to him and say, I want more money. And he says, no, you leave.
Yup.
Because if what's going to happen, if the guy has any brains, he's going to realize how much value you've increased in the business. And then you're going to be able to, it's going to create a vacuum in his company. Would you agree with that, Butters?
Absolutely. I hand out raises like candy when people ask for them. We had just one guy, we hired him as a journeyman at like $35 an hour, and he ended up running work. And he did a good job at it. And he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Trav, let's talk about my pay." And I'm like, "Here, have a raise." Like, no, there's no conversation. It's just, yeah, up to the maximum pay that we give anyone. Here you go. Done. Because he has value. It's there. It's not even a conversation worth having.
Yeah, there's plenty of bad business owners, and there's two types of bad business owners. There's consciously bad business owners who don't give a crap, and there's unconsciously bad business owners that don't know any better, right? Like if I had to pick one of the two to work for, I would want to pick the unconsciously bad, not the purposely bad, because
the accidentally bad ones, you can at least coach them.
There's room for growth there, right? If they're uninformed and they're just bad, like they have opportunities for growth. Oscar says they want to make more money, but they don't want to reusability. I think you meant maybe responsibility on job sites. Guys, across the board, most employees and business owners are underperforming. Just across the board, any industry. We think that if we answer the phone and we show up on time, and we give the customer the price they want, then I'm a great contractor. And it's like, no, bro, that's the bare minimum to entry. You should be doing that. It doesn't make you outstanding. People like Butters have gone on and keeps adding more value. Why don't you talk about that for a little bit?
Man, we went from being the guys that just show up and say yes and take notes and spit out prices to the guys that are like, labor only, whatever, you supply materials, to the guys that were like, yeah, you just tell us what you want and we'll get there and we'll pack you a bunch of allowances. Then we went to the guys that were like full service design build, interior, structural, architectural, engineering, do the whole thing. And now we're continuing to vertically integrate. Now we deal our own cabinets. And there's just value in every single step of the way. We have a big stack of automations where someone reaches out to us and we miss a call, they get a text message. They email us, they get an instant response. And then a few minutes later, they get a text message. And the entire journey is just ultra high level value stacked like that.
And 2 years ago, did you imagine that you would be where you're at right now? Like every detail figured out?
I still don't have every detail figured out, but 2 years ago, I had no idea what was happening. That I definitely did not think I would be sitting here bored.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely weren't planning on selling cabinets.
I wasn't, but it just kind of happened.
Yeah. But that's where, if you have a growth mindset and you're not afraid to fail, that's where you can go.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's like, here, this is the next step. It makes sense to do. Here's the opportunity. Let's just grab out and try and tug on it and see if it'll fall out of the sky for us. And that is the growth mindset. Like, this could go terribly wrong. I could spend 15 grand fitting out my showroom and I could sell 0 cabinets, and I could spend 40 grand on my designer's salary and make no money on her. But it's just money. That's one project. 40 grand, half of 6 months of her salary is one project. I got 10 grand in the website. I got 36 grand in marketing for the year. That's one project, man. I build one project, and if the cabinet thing fails, I make no money on one project. Oh, well. But if it goes well, I make another $1 million.
Could you have done all of that if you were still charging your old rates?
Absolutely not. No. Let me walk that back. We were charging for labor. We were charging enough. What we were not doing was charging for materials. And handling the materials allows us to put in the warranty, add the white glove touch to our projects, and fund all of this shit. I think just labor bids is at this point like that's silly.
Yeah. I want to spend the last few minutes talking about something else here. I want to talk about sunk cost bias. This is where most contractors die. Sunk cost bias is I have too much effort, I have too much time, and I have too much money invested in this thing that I can't give it up. I have to see it through, right? So using Butter scenario, he's getting into the cabinet business. Let's say he invests the 15K, 40 hours of time, and he launches it, and right off the bat he doesn't get very much business, but he's like, I put all this time and effort, and so he keeps doing it. He keeps spending more time, more energy, more effort. 6 months goes by, he's barely sold any cabinets, but it's like, well, I've gone this far now, like I can't give up now because I've got too much time and effort into it, so I have to see it to the end. That's sunk cost bias. People do this in their business, right? You've hired 3 employees that you shouldn't have hired, and you need to reset your business. You need to get rid of these 3 employees, but if you get rid of those 3, that you're going to be back on the tools, and it's going to start over. And so you just keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again, hoping that it's going to get better on its own somehow, and not realizing that your sunk costs, like the boat's already sunk. It's sinking to the bottom of the ocean, but you're still in the boat thinking that it's going to somehow get back out of water, right? That's what sunk cost bias is, and that's what keeps a lot of people stuck in their business. Thoughts on that, Butters?
There comes a point where you do have to abandon ship with some things, and I see it all the time. It happens with homeowners, and it happens with other people in the business too, or they'll just throw money at it but won't do the work, but they'll keep riding it. And it will kill a business, because you can either go 6 months in and you've spent 6 months of money and you're like, okay, it's time to get off the boat, and we've only lost 6 months, or you try and ride it out for another 6 months because you're stuck in it, and now you've doubled your losses and you still get nothing out of it.
Yeah, and it's not just like buying things or paying for things. It's the mindset of I've been in business for 20 years, and all my business comes from referrals, and I don't do any marketing.
Oh God!
Right?
I get so triggered every time I hear that.
You do.
I get so triggered.
That's sunk cost
bias.
Sunk
cost is rough.
Just because something's worked for the last 5 years does not mean it's going to work the next 5 years.
Yeah, no, not at all. And it's especially right now. I think one of your most recent TikToks was that if you started in the last 5 years, you're in a boom and you are not trying hard at all. If you've been writing for the last 5 years on word of mouth, just because it's been working 5 years, it ain't going to work 5 years from now. Probably ain't going to work next year.
I mean, that's, don't get me wrong, and I say this all the time, referrals are the best leads you can get.
Absolutely. But there's a hard cap on that. If you 10 people maybe that you chat with regularly, out of those 10 people, how many of those people need a remodel next week? You got to have new business coming in all the time, and referrals are not a reliable enough source of new business to maintain a construction company.
Well, and it's, well, I would, you probably could maintain a certain level for an extended period of time, but not indefinitely. So that's the guys that are I've been doing this for 20 years, because they're like one-man craftsmen, or maybe two-man.
It's the lifestyle tradesman, right?
The lifestyle tradesman, and they only need to do 6 jobs a year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they could go on forever on word of mouth. But if you want to grow and you want to sit here and be bored and play video games in the middle of the day, then you need new business coming in all the time.
Hey, you could be a salesman. I can get you a sales position, commission sales position if you're bored.
No,
I mean,
I worked hard to be bored.
all you gotta do is recommend me, dude. I mean, geez.
I worked. Brad, you are the expert at selling yourself, and you have a hard enough time selling yourself because of closed mind and mindsets nonsense.
I may have
could
to
not do
switch
better.
industries. I may get out of the construction industry altogether. There's too many closed-minded people in there.
You can come sell for me.
Well, I'm not going to go work for anybody. I may transition over to the physical therapy industry. My wife's in that industry, and I already got a potential client to help out with, and I wasn't even looking for them.
Well, the industry would miss you. That's for sure.
The industry needs to get their head out of their ass, is what they need to do.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. I am at this point looking for business like construction companies to buy as they're starting to go down, because it's gonna go. And if the guys that don't have their heads out of their asses have been riding on the 5-year high, they're going down. And I'm gonna start vacuuming those motherfuckers up.
Yep. There's 28 people watching live right now on TikTok. Of those 28, none of them will get coaching. I mean, that's
probably
maybe one or two, but the 20, I'm assuming that all of them are contractors. Some of them might be employees, but yeah, that you just won't get coaching because you're like, I can't afford it. Matt, man, I'm hey, and it doesn't count until I have the money in hand. Just like it doesn't count if you sold the job until you have a deposit.
Yup.
The proof.
POs don't go out until the check clears.
That's right. Yeah. Have you ever had a customer give you a check and be like, "Hey, it's post dated for a week. You can't cash it until Friday"?
If they wanted to give me I've gotten a couple of post dated checks, but they're like going out of town. And they're like, "Here's your next 4 payments."
Well,
but if someone wanted to give me a post dated check for a deposit, I'd take it. I'd just tell them like, "Okay, we're not doing anything until a week after I deposit this check."
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it should hurt, Justin. Like, I have the conversation with my wife all the time. I'll tell her something, and she's like, "That's really hurtful. Like, I don't appreciate the dig." I'm like, "Baby, it's not a dig. I'm sorry it hurts you, but it's not a dig. A dig is supposed to be hurtful." But dude, the truth fucking hurts sometimes, man.
I had this experience with a contractor. He might even be watching right now. He's followed me before, and he was reaching out after a live a couple weeks ago or whatever, and I was chatting with him, Messenger, and I looked at his website and stuff, and I was like, "Look, right off the bat, like you need to increase your professionalism. Like the website's not that great. It needs a lot of work." And a couple other things, and before we even got too far into it, he's like, "You're not the coach for me." I was like, "Okay."
Oof.
Like what? "Yeah, you're not the coach for me." And I was like, "How many coaches are helping you for free right now?" "You're not the coach for me." And then he said, "Are you being helpful or hurtful right now?" And I said, "I'm being truthful," which is what you just said. Like, guys, the truth freaking hurts. Because the reality
getting told you suck at something by someone who's trying to help you.
And I wasn't even being mean. I wasn't.
No, but that's what it boils down to. Like, your website is steaming garbage, and you need help fixing it. So let's work on it. And it sucks to hear it, man, because we're all craftsmen. It hurts our pride.
It does, guys. 99.9% of your problems is right here.
Yeah, it don't feel good, but you got to get over it and understand that it's like, okay, this sucks. So what do I do to make it better? Not, well, fuck you, I'm the best. You're not the best.
Yeah. So Needless to say, he was like, you're not, which he wouldn't have been the client for me either. Although I wasn't at that point, I wasn't trying to sell him. I was genuinely trying to help him. I don't know if people realize this, but I help people all the time for free, like give advice and stuff.
How many of them take it?
None.
I had this conversation with my wife yesterday. Like we're cleaning up our house and trying to get rid of stuff. And when you put it on those free groups on Facebook, people say they'll come get it, but they never actually do because there's no intrinsic value to it. They don't have to pay for it. So it just doesn't have any value. It's not worth their time. Oh, it's a free thing. Who cares? And I feel like, that happens a lot in the coaching space or just anything. You say I give free estimates. That's a marketing tool. That's not a good marketing tool because now your time has no value.
Exactly. One of the reasons why I buy my program is I collect a lot of the money up front is because of buy-in, right? If you spent $7,500 to join a program, you're going to put in the work. Like you're going to, I got to make this money back, especially if you don't have that. If you put all this on a credit card or got a loan or borrowed or whatever, and you're like, I got to make this money back as soon as possible. So I got to put in the work in order to get this money back. It's got to work. The system's got to work, right? And so
yeah, absolutely. You're just sunk into it.
You're 100% in. You're 100% in. If I took this and I broke it up over 12 months and I said, okay, now it's only $625 a month for 12 months. It's the same amount of money. At this level here, it could still be a lot of money for some people. But
it's easy to throw away $625.
You're not 100% in. Like you might be 60% in at this price.
It's easy to throw away that amount of money in a construction in a business. It's easy to throw it away. But yeah, you drop that $7,500. It's for sure a mindset change.
And then if you go to $99 a month, which is nothing, I tried out a $99 a month program, which is what Rammer was talking about. It was one coaching call a week for an hour. That was it. Like you come on a group coaching call. You can ask whatever questions. $99 a month. Like you have about, maybe 20% buy-in for most people. Now, some people, they're going to be 100% in at $99 a month. But the reality of it is, the reason why I charge this so much money is because it almost guarantees better results, even though it can be the same amount of money over a period of time.
That's not even that much. I think your program's way underpriced.
Yeah, Ramit, you're one of the people that actually took advantage of the value. There were like 3 of you that showed up every week and took advantage of the value. I had like 3 or 4 people that were paying $99 a month that never even showed up. They showed up for the first call and that was it. Never showed up again, but still paying the money because $99 a month is nothing. You forget about that, right?
Yeah, that's not hard to.
So let me throw one more thing out here before I go. Somebody asked the question, how does the coaching work? Isma, that's your name, or Isma. It's everything you need to be successful.
If you do the work.
If you do the work. I mean, Travis Butters is one of my clients. He can tell you if it was worth it or what you got to do. Or
I think the first year before we jumped in with you, we were at like
275, 278.
275, and then last year it was 760, and this year we're going to clear 2.
You went from 275 to near 2 million in 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's probably worth that initial investment then.
Yeah.
I don't know what. What's the ROI on that? Like 2,000 or something?
I don't know. Let's find out. They go 1,800,000, and I didn't even pay that. It is.
You paid less than that.
Yeah. 3,600.
3,600.
3,600% ROI in 2 years.
3,600% ROI. Now, to be fair, like Travis has gone on and got help from other coaches and expanded his mindset even more and more. Like I'm not 100% responsible for all of that. I don't claim to even have all of that, success.
It was the start, though.
Yeah, it was the start. It was the foundation for him to have all the other success. So, here's what last thing I want to leave you guys with. $500 client, $50,000 client. Okay. $500 client says, this is all I got. All I got. All I got's $500. You better do a good job, right? Like this is all I got. You better do a good job. $50,000 client says, money is wired. When do we start? This is the same. This is a saying in the coaching space. When I try to
add another zero on there, it gets fun.
Yeah, when I try to do programs for less than $500, it's like, oh, this is all the money I have. You better deliver. It's not the money is not the problem. It's you're the problem. $50,000 clients like, yeah, I want to fix this one part of my business. You have the solution. Here's the money. Let's go. Right. This is the same for your clients. Like I was showing you earlier in the funnel. If you're working, and by the way, these two clients are the exact same amount of energy to do. Exact same amount of energy.
500 more energy, man.
Well, but I mean like effort in terms of like program, all that stuff. Like this is the exact same work. This isn't like the $50,000 clients paying for 10%, 100% more results or whatever. Like literally this can be the same client doing the exact same program, and that's the result you get. So when you're doing your clients, when you're selling jobs, and you're, even if this is 5,000, if this is 5,000 and 50,000, you're doing the exact same thing. The $5,000 client's going to complain to you the whole time you're doing the job. The $50,000 client, you probably won't even see him, and the money's going to be paid up front. Like if you're going to put that much effort into doing a job, why wouldn't you want to work for the easiest and best clients out there? It makes no sense to me. It just doesn't make any sense. So last questions, guys, before I close this down. It was a good talk today. I was glad to get my board out, my dry erase board, and do some stuff. Throw your questions in there before we close down. If you want more help with your business, if you want to learn how you can find out more information about how I can help you, you can go to the contractorprofitblueprint.com. You can go to you can go to my website, hammerandgrind.com.
Get in the Facebook group.
What's that?
Hey, so they ought to get in the Facebook group too.
You can get in my free Facebook group, which is also titled the Contractor Profit Blueprint. You can go just search it. Lots of ways to get a hold of me. Shoot me a direct message. Do a smoke screen, airplane banner. I don't give a crap what you do. Just get my attention somehow, and I can share with you what that looks like. Travis, any departing thoughts?
Change your mindset, do better, spend money, make more money.
I love it. Simple, to the point, and accurate.
Have a good day, Brad. Thanks for having me on.
See you, man. I appreciate you jumping on here. See you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good one.